welcome to yet another edition of Warren and Will's Wild Wine Reviews. I'm Warren.
I'm Will.
And we're Warren and Will's Wild Wine Reviews. Today we're doing Dunn Vineyards Cabernet.
Howell Mountain.
Howell Mountain. Dunn Vineyard of Howell Mountain. They're Cabernet Sauvignon. I'll give you a little bit of information to start with. Vivino has it at 4.6 stars out of 5 with 198 reviews.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's really impressive.
That is really good.
The average price is $167 a bottle. I bought it in Roanoke, Virginia at Mr. Bill's for $170. So I only got charged $3 more than the average national price. And, you know, that's the price
for around here. That ain't
in Virginia.
That ain't bad at all.
So we're gonna pour ourselves a little bit of this. Has been decanted for 2 hours. This is a big monster cab. It spent 3 years in French oak.
Whew.
So when you spend that much time in French oak, you want to be decanted.
Absolutely. Was it new or neutral or a mixture?
What do you mean by that? Oh, it was all new.
It was all new.
Brand new. Yeah, isn't that a song by the Ramones? I want to be decanted. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. What we got going on here?
Huge nose.
Yep.
Huge nose.
Does it remind you of a whiskey at all? Just like
yeah, there's a little bit of that.
Not in terms of like any hot heat, because it's only.
Well, there's a little heat in this.
It's only 13.9.
It's only 13.9. Yeah.
Alcohol. No, when I say whiskey, it's just like there's like a.
You're getting the kind of the candy, the candy oakiness
and the
that
caramel
you get in a bourbon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a little,
it's oak, but it's a sweet
little
oak.
hint in the background. Yeah.
Oh, it's big. There's so much going on the nose. Boysenberry, by the way. A ton of boysenberry.
So what's interesting, just compare, I mean, I know that we're comparing apples and bowling balls, but like this versus the Doubleback. Wow. Same grape. But the Doubleback had this extracted fruit character, like really rich,
bigger
silky.
mouthfeel. This is a medium mouthfeel.
Yeah.
There's
higher acidity, maybe not higher acidity, but it's more apparent than the Doublebacks was because of that overly rich mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Here the acidity, and it might be a rare instance of lower overall body but higher tannin structure, because tannins and acids do reinforce each other. But yeah, just right off the bat, it's just like it bites you right in the forefront. I hate to say this, but I'm getting cherry cough drops. No, Ludens, absolutely. Now, the thing about cherry is when you say cherry, there's so many different types of cherry. Right. There's red cherry, there's black cherry, there's pie cherry.
Green cherries.
Yep. There's and then there's that particular
cherries.
Type of, that thicker kind of cherry flavor that you get from cherry candy.
I'm sorry.
Sure it was. Anything's funny after a couple of glasses of wine.
Very puckery at the end, but not overpowering.
See, the reason I don't consider that an insult is when I was a kid, I used to ask for Luden's cough drops when I wasn't sick, because I like the way they tasted.
Me too. And it does taste good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely that sort of cherry cough drop feel up front. There's also like a I want to say like the thing about that kind of bracing acidity is I usually associate that with cranberry or raspberry. Yep. So definitely just like a lot of vibrant, jazzy red fruit right up front.
Jazzy's a good word.
And again, going back to the Doubleback, I mean, Doubleback was pretty much all black fruit. I don't remember getting any red fruit off of it.
This one's got red fruit. I'm getting strawberry, raspberry.
Yeah, but I think it's all red fruit. Well, let's see. Maybe it'll change over time. I shouldn't.
Well, it's been decanted for 2 hours.
True. But whenever, I mean, the decanting, it's still just sitting there, and only that is getting exposure to oxygen. When you start aerating it, all sorts of things pop out.
I mean, I do have, I should go get them out of storage. I have many different decanters. That's just the one I keep around because it's easy to store, and it's usable for more than just decanting wine.
Yeah.
Because it's nice and straight, and you can do stuff with it. Now, a real wine decanter has a really wide base. So you get more exposure of the wine to the air, and speeds up the process. Decanting it in this bottle for 2 hours
slows it down.
I understand is not the same as if I had one of those narrow and then wide base.
Honestly, in some ways I prefer this because it's exposing less. It's doing a nice double duty where yes, when you pour it out of the bottle into this, you're aerating it somewhat because it's sloshing around and you're introducing oxygen. But then only that's getting exposed to oxygen, so it's not aerating as quickly.
I considered aerating it into the container, but I didn't. I didn't this time. Sometimes I do. It
always will aerate a little bit just because sloshing around and as soon as you pour it out of the bottle, you're introducing oxygen into the mix. But I actually prefer narrow decanters in some regards because once you've gone past a certain point, you can't undecant it, but you can always leave it a little
It's
longer.
like toothpaste.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
take it
Once
out
you
of the
open
tube.
once you open the tube, yeah, you can't put it back in again.
The nose is spectacular.
Yeah, cherry cordial.
Yeah,
And
cherry
there's like a wood smoke backdrop to this too, like a smokehouse or yeah.
If you haven't been to Ireland, you might not know what peat smells like. And I'd always
Just
seen
pick up a
people
good
put
scotch.
peat. I've seen people mention peat for years
Yeah.
in wine reviews. It meant nothing to me. And then I lived in Ireland for half
And
a
all
year.
of a sudden you understood
and
it.
now I know what peat smells like.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, we had a peat fireplace. I burned peat almost every night during the winter.
Yep.
So the peat it's definitely got a peat note.
When I was first getting started in wine, I remember one time I read a Robert Parker wine review, and he mentioned bacon fat, and I was thinking, oh, you pretentious son of a gun.
Not to be confused with the detective.
Yes, correct.
Not that anybody watching this video is going to make that mistake.
Now, did you know about the Robert Parker?
I did.
Yeah, you did.
I
I figured you probably did, being both from Massachusetts and a publisher. Spencer
was
and
on
Hawk.
television,
Yep.
And Hawk, who later then was in Star Trek
Yep.
as a captain.
Ving Rhames,
on
yep.
DS9.
Yep.
So.
Good choice for Hawk. One time I remember the first time I smelled a wine or got the aroma of wine that had a hint of bacon fat. I was like, I'll be darned, he wasn't pulling out where the sun don't shine.
Now these guys are in Howell Mountain, which is the highest point
In Napa
Valley.
Okay.
And I don't know how many vineyards are. They own 4 vineyards and manage a 5th.
Yeah.
And, they've got 40 acres of cab, 42 acres of cab that they grow. And they apparently started in 1978. The owner originally started in the field working for Camus.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
Back, I think, before Camus started,
Before they became what they are today.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Camus is when I taste them, it's good, solid wine, probably worth $100. But they're putting additives in that wine that I can taste, that I don't taste in this wine and some other wines that are in that price range.
Right.
When I buy a $100 bottle of wine, I do not want to taste Mega Purple or Liquid Smoke.
Yep.
I mean, those are the 2 that I can name. I know there's 85.
Different things you
can put in without putting it on the label.
Yep.
And I don't know that I can really taste all of them, but I know those 2 when I taste them.
And you don't even have to necessarily be putting in
And they're not putting in much.
That's why
they've got a good wine, and they're just trying to make it a little more uniform.
Right, they're trying to bulk it up a
all the
little bit
bottles,
and add some umami character or whatever. There was a whiskey I like called Copper Fox. They don't have it at Dogtown anymore. They used to. And
Dogtown's a local
Dogtown's our local
restaurant where we hang out.
It's
where we met.
Yep, exactly. We met at a beer release party there. A
Yep.
local coffee shop made a coffee stout, and they released it at Dogtown.
I don't have that pint glass anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, well. I think I broke it. Sorry.
It always happens. They always, one way or another, whether it's in the sink or from a clumsy friend, they all go the same way.
32 months in French oak.
Wow.
Brand new French oak. Yeah, that's something.
And this really, because can you imagine if it's been 32 months in American oak?
No.
I'm not sure it'd be drinkable.
No, it wouldn't be drinkable. It might be drinkable in 30 years.
Yeah, but it probably still tastes like wood in 30 years.
Oh yeah, probably so.
It would just be slightly gentler.
These guys don't sell their wines. You can't just go to their website and click and buy their wines the way you can some. You have to actually join a club that they have.
Right.
But they currently have their entire my understanding is they have a library of all the wines they've ever made, and they release them only to their list every now and then.
Cool.
Considering what we have here, that's probably, if you like really big Napa cabs, you probably
now. Did you buy this directly from them, or did you get this?
No,
from...
I got this at Mr. Bill's.
Okay, that's right. You said that.
Because
I was going to say the only place that I've seen this, because you got it at Mr. Bill's. The only other place I've seen this is Wine Lab.
Yeah, I was given...
And I'm not sure they have this vintage.
I was given a $100 gift certificate for Christmas from my in-laws.
Yeah.
And to Mr. Bill's, which is just down the road from them. Not where I normally go, but they've got some decent wines.
Yeah.
So I went over there and dropped, I don't know, hundreds of dollars beyond the price of that. This alone was more than double the cost of...
Well, if you're going to make that trip to Roanoke, you might as well make it worth your while. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
But the thing was, I was in there, and so we were already thinking about doing this. Will and I have been talking about doing this for
a while,
6 months maybe, and kind of slowly working our way. And then in the last month or two, it's been a little more furious now that we're actually videotaping the blogs.
Yep. And coming
And
up
so
with...
I picked this up thinking it would be one that we'd want to do. And here I am saying, yeah, it is one we want to do. It's very good. I don't think it's quite up to what we got from Drew Bledsoe's.
No. But again, I mean, we're talking about
Double
two different creatures. I mean, this is a Napa Cab. This is representing a not just the varietal, but the style that they go
but
for.
Drew's $120 cheaper.
Yeah, and the other thing is that the thing about any place like Washington or Oregon where there's still... I mean, the thing is, Napa Cab has had 50 years to nail down its particular style.
And I'm not saying they aren't worth 270 because they probably 160 to 170.
Yeah,
it probably is. It's really quite good.
Yeah,
you don't want to drink. I mean, I don't want to drink the same wine every night.
Right.
So while I do slightly prefer the double back to this is pretty good. You know, it doesn't come up to the Wraith.
Right.
But it's solid. You know, you're going to enjoy it. You're not going to feel ripped off.
Right. Well, the thing that Drew Bledsoe has going is that in Washington, there's not necessarily there's not an established Walla Walla style for Cabernet Sauvignon. You can do whatever you want, and it's not going to, you know, but people who drink lots of Napa Cab, and there are people who drink...
You're not varietally correct.
Well, not only not varietally, but regionally. I mean, the thing is, there are people who drink lots and lots and lots of Napa Cab, and they have this idea in their head about how they want it to taste.
I've had close to 150 Napa Cabs.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, like, that's all they drink. When I was at Wine Lab, there used to be guys who would come in and they wouldn't look at anything but the Napa Cab part of the list. And it's like, you know, do what you want with your money, but you're kind of missing out on some other stuff.
But if you like Napa Cab, can I show you this
Absolutely.
Spanish Grenache from Alto Moncoya that's going to blow your freaking doors off?
Yep. And if we were lucky enough to have one of those open because Boyer was in a particularly quirky mood that day, sometimes I could do a lateral shift, but, you know, that's only every so often.
We love you, John.
We do.
Boyer, we love you.
You crazy man. Never change.
No, keep wearing your plaid. Every time I see his vehicle go by, which is a custom-made plaid. Yeah. What kind of vehicle is it?
It's like a Cube, a Honda Fit. I'm not sure which.
It's nobody but his. You can't mix it.
He should never do anything illegal.
One of his superhero powers is the plaid.
But he should never do anything illegal because he'll never be able to make a clean getaway.
He
was driving a plaid Honda Cube, officer. Oh, okay, Boyer.
So I was once going to do an interview, and did do an interview of Jimmy Johnson, the race car driver. And NASCAR told me I couldn't ask the question. If you and your wife go shopping, does she drive in case there's a right turn? They didn't think that was funny. They didn't think that was funny.
I bet he would have thought it was funny.
I bet he would have, but whoever it was in charge of clearing the questions didn't. So he was driving a KISS car at a
That's what I hate about major conglomerates. They set
at a
the life
race,
out of everything.
and I was working with KISS. So
okay. I was going to say what I was wondering.
Why on earth would Warren be interviewing a NASCAR driver?
Before I even asked the question, you answered it for me.
My dad was in a NASCAR. He was in the pit, and he was the second driver, and the first driver got sick, and my dad came in second, the only time he was ever allowed to drive.
Wow.
And funny thing is, that driver never got sick again.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because there was a dude behind him who on his first race came in second. He's like, I'm not letting that guy near. I don't want him to have any experience.
Nope, not happening ever again.
That's all I really know about
That's still pretty cool,
NASCAR.
Though.
My dad was into it. He worked in the pit. He drove one race and then never had another opportunity because their first driver was apparently pretty damn good.
Right.
He told me who he was, and it was somebody you would recognize, but I don't remember it.
Funny
and
fact about...
I wouldn't recognize it if I saw it today.
Funny fact about... you probably already know this, but NASCAR arose out of...
we really ride. We really...
Yes!
Oh, I do know it. Living in Floyd County, you must know
But this is going to come back around because this is tied to alcohol. Do you know what NASCAR's origins were? Stock car racing came from
the
bootleggers.
It was the bootleggers from
They had the souped-up cars.
From Floyd and
from
Franklin
Patrick,
County.
and,
Floyd County, Patrick County,
and Franklin.
And Franklin County, and their cars were so fast the Stadies couldn't catch them.
Yep.
So as soon, and that's where they got that whole stupid... I forgot the name of the movie with the General Lee in it.
The Duke brothers, the Dukes of Hazzard.
The Dukes of Hazzard was filmed about this area that
Yep.
we live in. You know, and so these guys had these big ass muscle cars that could outdo the Stadies, and on these back roads, if you could lose them, there weren't helicopters, there was no GPS,
and if the cops didn't know the roads,
and
they
they just outran them.
But the Curtis Turner was one of the big ones, and he was from here in Floyd, and so it's over from Mickey G's, it's behind the Hollingsworth and Vose factory in town. There is a speedway, and the elements of it are still there. There's still like wooden posts in the ground, and you can still see traces of the road where they used to run. It was all gravel. There was no asphalt.
And these guys would run on the weekend to make sure they had the fastest car possible and that they could handle it.
Yep, this is
when
back
there
in
was
like
a
the 50s,
Stady
60s.
behind them.
Yep.
You don't want the first time you've got your car up to 180 hitting a corner to be with the Stady behind you.
Nope.
You want to have done that before. Not that I've ever had a car up to 180. I actually haven't. I had a Z28 1988 when I was in a metal band. I got that puppy up to 135.
That's nice.
And I still had plenty to go.
Oh yeah.
And at 135, I'm like, the cars on I had a very straight section of highway or I wouldn't have done it.
Yep.
And they were like freaking pylons, and I was like, at one point, one of them slowed down, and I was just like, ah! And I was like, okay, that's enough of that crap.
Do you know why the rose with bootlegging is? You could use the whiskey as ballast.
Do you drop it if they're...
No. You use the whiskey to weigh down the back wheel so you don't fishtail.
Gotcha, right, because they were all...
Especially on gravel roads. Because you were probably on a pavement.
Right, and I had a front wheel.
Exactly, yeah. These were...
Actually, no, my Z probably wasn't front wheel. It was 19... It was an 85 Z28 with T-tops and 2-port injection.
But these were front wheel drive vehicles,
5.0.
Light on the springs in the back, so you use all those cases and cases of whiskey, which could be hundreds and hundreds of pounds, to weigh down the back wheels, and that prevented their car from
And your
sliding.
guy in the back can be hurling bottles at the cops as they're coming at you.
If you want to do that.
You get one on the windshield, you're gone.
They usually didn't have to do that because the cops didn't know the roads as well as the moonshiners did.
Yeah. So yes, we live in a place with interesting history.
Absolutely.
And despite the flag, no, I'm not going there.
Let's not get to the flag thing.
Yeah, never mind.
Well, I mean, it does tie back to the
There was no
General
actual
League.
Civil War here in Floyd.
No.
They never made it here.
No.
From the north or the south.
Nope. We're in a place that nobody up until now ever wanted, which is why it's so pristine, which is why people want it now.
And which is why you can own 55 acres like I do.
In the 1860s, as pretty as Floyd was, nobody was interested in developing the property because it didn't have any agricultural use. Now that we're in the 2020s,
we have too many hills.
Well, the thing is
but you could do wine on the side of the hills. I mean,
scenery is now a commodity.
Right.
When it wasn't before. We do in spades.
I only want to buy 15 more acres in that direction.
Over towards the road?
Yeah, because I have 55 acres here. There's 40 acres behind you and 15 skinny acres in front of you. Now, you can't see any neighbors. Everything I can see I own, which is pretty sweet.
It is. It's awesome.
And it doesn't cost as much here as you would think. You do not need to be a rich man to own a lot of property in Floyd. It goes for between $2,000 and $4,000 an acre, which is sweet as hell. But I just want... There's still a little bit of that hill that you can see from my gazebo that I don't own, so I'm still concerned about a pig farm. Now, I know I own enough of it that if somebody did this, and this is the way you deal with pig farms, now we're getting far afield, is I would dig a swale and point the runoff right back at their property.
Yeah.
There was somebody I read about in Kansas who'd been suing, or somewhere, he had a bit of a hill, not much because it was a flat place, but he had gone into court repeatedly and won, and these people were told to stop dropping their pig crap and letting it flow into his property, but they just didn't care.
Right.
Because the cost that they were getting from the judge was nothing compared to what they were saying.
They're making,
And then he eventually built a swale that dropped it all right in front of their office.
And they had to smell
it.
it.
And they sued him.
Yep.
And lost.
Of course.
Because, he's got a swale on his property.
Yeah.
The only problem with the swale is stuff from their properties landing in his swale and going back onto their property. You're going to have a hard time winning that one.
Yep.
So that was the one. That's what I would do if somebody put a pig farm at the top of that hill.
Now, are pig farms
rather than
much Floyd?
Yeah.
Are they?
I mean, generally it's like 20 pigs. It's not like the huge.
Right.
It's not agribusiness.
I'm thinking it because the thing is, in
but
Buckingham,
even that's enough. We got nitrogen and pig crap going in my pond that's stocked with bass and catfish.
No, pig
and
farms are
that.
notorious. Yeah.
So I want to buy. If I buy that next hill, then I own the crest of the hill, and then I don't care.
See, I'm from Buckingham, where I remember there was a big to do in the 90s when they started putting in the industrial pig farms, and it was just. It was a nightmare. A lot of populist overtures to the American farmers, like, you're not the rugged individualists that built this country.
They were probably agribusiness anyway,
they were.
And just big corps owned by
with shills and
Tyson
hags working for them,
pretending to be a family farm that they weren't.
Yep.
All right, That's got to bore you people to freaking tears. And I'm sorry.
On the other hand, they're getting a very...
We promise, we go far afield. We know stuff.
They're getting a realistic portrait of
who we are,
how our
where
conversations wander and meander.
As we've said before, one of the things that led us to do this is that we often will go to parties and we'll drink wine, and people will just sit around and listen to us talk about the wine. People who'll be like, I don't like wine, but you make me want to think about drinking it. You know, and I don't mean to make fun of the way. Yeah, I do. But,
well, and I mean, the thing is that wine can be intimidating, and if you've never,
it can be.
If you've never had anyone but a pretentious person or elitist talk about it or explain it to you.
We are pretentious and elitist.
No, we're not.
But we're also
we're just
look
snobs.
Down at you if you're not. Okay, maybe that makes us just snobs. I don't know.
We're just snobs. But the thing is that it doesn't matter to us what other people drink, and a lot of wine. A lot of people who don't drink high-end wines or don't know a lot about wine often feel like they're being looked down on, and we don't care. It's
right.
If you're drinking
and
something
as
that
I've
you
said,
like.
we've said this before. If you enjoy the wine, it's a good wine.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only prerequisite. I had an uncle who said they didn't make bad wine. I'd like to dig him up and tell him he's wrong.
Yeah, that part is wrong.
He's dead now.
Wonderful
man, but he was wrong.
There is such a thing as bad wine, and that and the whole thing about treating your palate.
There's not as much of it as there used to be because of Mega Purple. You know, we get on Mega Purple.
Yeah.
And the people who use Mega Purple and Liquid Smoke and the other 83 additives you can put in. But the reality is, if you put it in, it's drinkable.
Well, and something
it's
I
not
find
much more than drinkable, but it's always okay.
I found it really cool to taste those Napa Cabs that we tasted from 1972 or whenever it was.
They weren't drinkable.
They weren't drinkable, but it was informative. It was educational.
And yet we drank them, so I guess they were drinkable. They just weren't very good.
They were drinkable in the sense that one could drink them.
It was very informative. It was very informative.
Very educational.
They weren't making the Napa Cabs back then in America to age.
No.
They are now. 3 years in French oaks means that puppy can age. And it's the oak, really, that gives you that age.
And I also think that maybe they didn't have I mean, if they had the tools then that we have now, that 72 cab might have been a lot more drinkable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If they had modern vinification.
It was quite drinkable at the time. It beat the French.
Yeah, absolutely. We know it was good at one point.
We know that it was the best wine in the world.
We have independent verification,
That of people who really didn't want it to be the best wine in the world.
The funny thing about that, it wasn't even meant to be a competition. What it was is it was put. First of all, it was put on by an Englishman, so you know that he wasn't trying to make the Americans look good.
No.
And it was hosted in Paris, and the French at that point at that point, American wine was so new that the French didn't even have contempt for it. It was just amusing. It was as if, you know, they said, oh, they're growing wine on the moon. Or isn't that cute?
And they insisted on a rematch the minute they lost. Oh, by the way, they lost that one, too.
But the thing is that it was all French judges, because it was in Paris.
Yep.
And it was
blind.
It was done by Stephen Spurrier. Stephen Spurrier, did not expect any of the American wines to win.
He's not the coach. The college football coach.
Is there a Stephen Spurrier that's a football coach?
I'm not positive his name is Steven. I might be wrong there, but I thought it was.
He ran a wine shop.
He was the Redskins coach for a short time.
No, definitely not the same dude. This guy was an English wine merchant, and he had come across these California Cabs and Chardonnays, and he thought they were pretty good, and he wanted to put them up against French White Burgundy and French Red Bordeaux, which are Chardonnay, and he wanted to do a varietal comparison. And the American wines blew all the French wines out of the water in a blind tasting. There was even one point at which the lone journalist, it was not a highly attended event. It was a very informal thing.
But it sure blew everything up when that dude put out the article.
Well, and after the fact, the French insisted that it had been like this huge event, and there'd been like American flags hanging on the wall behind them, and all the thing had been a put-up job.
Like that'll help with a blind tasting.
Exactly, yeah. But the point at which the journalist knew that something was up was one of the French judges was tasting a California Chardonnay, and he went, back to Burgundy. And he was like, something is really going on here.
By the way, we're now coming up on 3 hours, and it's getting better.
Now you said these guys were founded in 1978.
No. Yeah, 1978.
So that would have...
By Randy Dunn.
See, the thing is that there was a rash of wineries that sprung up in the aftermath, because the Judgment of Paris was in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happened to be the bicentennial of the American Revolution, which was interesting. It wasn't intentional, but it was interesting. In the years after that, you watch, in the late 70s, early 80s, all these California wineries start popping up because people began realizing not only could California wineries make good wine, they could
make the best wine in the world.
They could beat the French at their own game.
Now, looking at this label, I'm kind of surprised they don't have like a a covered wagon or a stagecoach on it.
Yeah.
Because their offices are in the former Western Union stagecoach
What?
style.
Oh yeah, they should totally do that.
Yeah, they should, but they don't. They haven't.
I feel like there's a Thomas Pynchon reference there somewhere, like the crying of Lot 49, like don't ever antagonize the horn. They could put like a postal horn.
You could do something
and
there.
Freak out all of the former acid heads who read Thomas Pynchon.
I also think it's kind of neat. These guys have given $5 million, which is the largest amount that anyone's given to the Napa Land Trust to help help preserve the Napa forests, because everybody just wants to plow everything under and plant more grapes because Napa Cab.
Well, and also the thing is keeping trees alive in that part in California is never been more important. Yeah, because
well, it keeps it from getting hotter.
Well, but it also prevents erosion. They're building a pipeline out not too far from us, east towards Roanoke, and they did a massive deforestation to put the pipeline in. And it rained, and there was a mudslide down into Franklin County. It never happened before, and it's because those root systems are integral in keeping the soil intact.
Right.
So, do we know how many acres they left intact as a result of
We don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it may be on their website.
Yeah.
I didn't actually.
But I mean, the thing is
take that note and put it.
I have friends living in California, and the desertification over there is very real. Yep. So, I mean, anything that they can do to keep trees in place is gonna be good for them.
Now, I can't tell you much about their vineyard. Also, they do the Howell Mountain,
right?
You know, the Dunn Vineyards. They've got 2 wines. I'm not sure which. I mean, I know they do 2 Napas. Yeah. You know, and this one just says Howell Mountain, Napa Valley, Cabernet Sauvignon. I don't know what the difference between this and the other one is.
Right.
Maybe the other one's the winemaker's wine.
Right.
Or
different vineyard.
I don't know if it's better or if it's more approachable. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I couldn't find that information since they don't sell the wines directly to you unless you're a member, and I'm not yet a member. But at any rate, they have another wine label called Retro Wines that I click through, and the wines there are quite reasonable, $35, $40, $50
I've never heard of those.
A bottle. I had not.
Are they distributed by regular process?
You know, I didn't actually look into that because we're not reviewing their wines. But hey, guys, you want to send me some of your wines? You know, considering
we'll review them.
we will review them, and we're gonna, you know, we review the wines for what they are. So you send us a $40 cab.
We will
We're
review your wines with a fair gavel of justice.
To live up to this.
No.
So yes, wow, some of my favorite wines are a bit better than this in my estimation. None of them go for less than $150.
Check it out. We got some tartrates.
Oh yeah, I love that. So Will has probably explained this before, but he's going to explain it again right now.
I don't know if you can see this smudge. So it's a big solid clump of crystals. That is actually the same thing as cream of tartar that's used in baking. In fact, prior to modern industry, the main source of cream of tartar was from winemaking. You scrape it off and wash it and re-dry it. But it is potassium bitartrate. And tartaric acid is the predominant acid in wine that's responsible for it holding on to its color and for its lack of microbial growth.
And this is still opaque and red and garnet and beautiful.
But part of the reason, I mean, the thing is that 13.9% alcohol, if this were just a bottle of water with 13.9% ethanol in it, it would not necessarily be stable against microbial growth. That tartaric acid is one of the most potent antimicrobial organic acids. It might be the most, but it also is responsible for fixing color. And if there's enough of it in the wine, what happens is the acid comes out of solution, bonds with potassium ions, which are soluble in liquid, and forms these crystals, which come out of solution. They're very unpleasant to get in your mouth, but they won't hurt you. It's just disconcerting if you're drinking a glass of wine.
It's like getting coffee.
Yeah, or a mouthful of salt. Yep. It doesn't taste like anything. But if you're drinking an old... a lot of red wines that aren't old have it.
This one is only... 2016, so it's 6 years old.
Oh, some young wines have it. It's honestly just I mean, the thing is like Cabernet Franc, especially Virginia Cab Franc, just has a naturally higher amount of tartaric acid in it. Yeah. So if you get a Virginia Cab Franc, it's not uncommon to take the cork off and have potassium tartrate crystals on the cork itself.
Oh, I didn't bring the cork out. That's in the other room. But it's a very dark cork. Very dark on the end. And by the way, when they bring you the cork, it's not so you can smell it. Nobody can tell anything smelling a cork.
Right.
It's so you can see the tartaric acid on
and the color,
on the
and the
color on
tannin.
the end
Yep.
of it, and then you can tell how well it is aged.
Right.
On a wine that it's very light, it hasn't done much aging.
Right.
One that's dark, you've got some aging happening.
Yep.
You know, and the funny thing is, I've had some that are much older than this with way less dark corks. This one is a very dark cork because it aged.
Yep. And the other thing is the
made
shade.
to age. They intended it to age.
The other is the shade of red. If it's edging towards purple, that's telling you that the wine, as whatever the year on the label is, if there's still purple in the wine, it's still got some youth to it. But if it's tending towards that brickish, brownish hue, that tells you, okay. Now, that being said, that can also lead you astray because Nebbiolo is a grape that loves to turn brown very, very young.
Yeah.
I don't know if what it is about Nebbiolo that
The
does
kind
that.
of brick red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Brick red. It turns brick red within a couple of years. Now, it'll stay at that same hue for a while, but you can have a Nebbiolo that's a couple of years old and look at the color and be like, oh my gosh, this is like 10 or 15 years old.
Sorry
Nope.
about the eye, folks. We'll probably edit that out. So here is the thing. One of the other reasons they show you the cork. So we got our little rocket ship guy. Remember, we've asked you last one to help us name him. Help us name him. But this says Cake Bread Cellars. Well, if you've had the wine before, you know what the cork looks like.
Yeah.
They pull the cork and they show it to you. If the cork's wrong, you know that you're drinking a fake.
Absolutely.
And so that's the other reason you look at it.
Yep, they're marked with
Nobody
the...
can tell anything smelling a cork.
No.
I mean, people go, I just laugh.
It
'cause
definitely
there's
smells like a
nothing
cork.
to it. It's cork, yep.
Yep.
Hey, it's a cork that's been in a wine bottle.
Yep.
What do you know? Not much, it appears.
Did I ever-
because you're smelling a cork.
Did I
Wow.
ever tell you about my friend John, who is an engineer, and his analysis? Because he'd never been to a wine tasting. He's not much of an alcohol person in general. Like the only alcohol that he really liked was like sweet rum. But one of the things I always really liked about John is he gave everything a try. If you put it in front of him, he would try it. And he was an engineer, so he was very analytical. So he was at a wine tasting. He was like looking around and watching the people around him. I could see him like really the gears turning in his head. And at the end of the tasting, he's like, I think I have this whole thing figured out. And I was like, by all means, do tell
me, yeah.
Because I was the one pouring
I
for
wanna
him.
know.
And he said, okay, so the first thing you do is you swirl your wine around really fast. That makes you look cool. then
As I said, that's not why we do it. The fact that it makes us look cool, we appreciate, but that's not why we do it.
He said, then you look around and you go, yeah, there's liquid in there. And he said, and then you
That's
smell
beautiful.
it. Then you smell it, you go, I think that's alcohol. And they go,
Oh, yeah.
definitely wine. Definitely wine. Absolutely. And his girlfriend got so mad, I'm like, that is actually about 80% of it.
Well,
No, but
you know,
we don't swirl it around to look cool. This is introducing oxygen into the
Yeah.
glass and
We are
aerating
purposely
it.
aging
It does look cool, but that's not why we do it.
You aerate wine to artificially age it.
Yep.
You know, we got the, in this case, the 6 years in the bottle.
Yep.
And now what this will do will give us a year or two more, along with the decanting and aerating we might be doing, which will give us an idea how it tastes.
Oxygen
later
is your
on.
worst enemy before you open the bottle and your best friend
afterwards.
Yep.
Depending on how old your bottle is when
True.
you open it. You open a 72, you do not want to
No.
probably give it more oxygen.
That being said, there is one exception to that, and that's Madeira, which has already been oxidized beyond the point of no return by the time you open
That's
the bottle.
fortified, isn't it?
It is fortified.
Okay.
It is fortified. It is oxidized. It's exposed to heat and light. When I was doing my introductory sommelier, one of the master sommeliers teaching the course said, all right, guys, in unison, what are the three things that you don't want to expose wine to are heat, light, and oxygen. And Madeira has already been exposed to all three of those things. Deliberately. Well, it wasn't originally deliberate. What happened was they used to ship the fortified wine across the ocean, and it got exposed to heat and light and oxygen as a result of the multi-week crossing. Then they started just doing it artificially because they liked the way the wine tasted.
Yep.
It doesn't require refrigeration. You can get a 200-year-old bottle of Madeira that has already been opened,
And it's still decent.
and it's unchanged.
I mean,
It can't go any further.
I've had a port from, I think, 1895.
Yep.
I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
It was almost looked like they'd when I poured it,
Mhm.
it almost looked like that they had bottled it with the leaves from the vineyard.
Oh,
But
yeah.
That was just
So much sediment.
the sediment
Yep.
from the tartaric acid.
Um,
What's the
just
right word for it?
Probably the tannins, probably
With the
tartaric
tannins,
acid. Tartaric acid.
tartaric acid.
Yep.
Along with the tannins binding for the last 125 years.
Exactly.
From when that was made. It was given to a local, thrift shop that caters to, it's a nonprofit catering to people.
Was that Angels?
Yes.
Really?
But they can't sell alcohol.
No, they can.
Because that's illegal.
Yeah.
So they're like, what do we do with this? In fact, my accountant reached out to me and said, hey, Warren, that's Will
Griffin.
Will Griffin, wonderful guy. He does tons of nonprofits tax returns for free, which I think is marvelous.
Yes.
One of the reasons Will does my tax returns,
Yep.
which he does not do for free, but that's okay. I don't expect him to. I am not a not-for-profit, which also means that I'm not a not-profit company. Our company...
All for profit.
Right. I mean, Will and I are both professionals in the publishing industry, in case you didn't know. But at any rate...
which is why I threw in
he
that Thomas
called me
Pynchon
up
reference.
and said, hey, so we got this wine, and you're like the wine guy in this town.
Yep.
And I'm like, I will offer, and I gave a dollar amount. It was more than it was probably worth.
Right.
Because I looked it up, found out what it was worth, and offered them 10% more because
Nice.
it's a nonprofit. They can't sell it. But it was going for about $200, I think. I offered him like $220.
Nice.
And so I went and got it, handed them the money. It was a tax write-off. What the hell?
Yeah.
I was donating the money to them, and they were handing me a wine they couldn't sell to
I
anybody.
can't believe somebody donated to Angels. That's hilarious.
Well, I think it was in like a group of things they gave them.
Oh, okay. They didn't even realize
Then
what
I came
it was.
at home
probably.
and popped it, and it wasn't very good.
Right. Well, who knows how it was kept?
Right. No. It was the cork was compromised, but because of because it had been fortified,
Right.
it was still drinkable.
Here's the thing about port is that although port is fortified, it hasn't been fully oxidized the way that Madeira has, and it can oxidize. Madeira has essentially reached the end stage of anywhere a wine could go. And the thing is, a lot of people assume that when wine is fully oxidized, it becomes vinegar. You actually have to introduce acetobacter into a wine for it to turn to vinegar. What happens is it just becomes more and more oxidized. And if you've ever, I don't know how to describe it, but if you've ever had a bottle of wine that's several days old or has been left open, there are processing aromas that aren't very pleasant. But the wine isn't vinegar; it's still identifiable as wine. It just doesn't taste very good.
Yeah, when I go to a restaurant and I see a wine that I like, I always ask them if they don't have a Coravin.
Yeah.
Coravin. I ask them when did you open it?
Yeah.
Because some places are like, oh, we opened it last Tuesday. I'm like,
Yep.
it's Thursday. That's 9 days. You don't want that.
Well, and also the thing is even if they have a lot of wine or bars that serve wine will vacuum seal the wine.
It's not good enough.
Not only is
for
it
a
not
week.
good enough. Not only is it not good enough. That vacuum within the wine actually keeps pulling the volatile flavor and aroma chemicals out of the wine. It will prevent oxidation. What it will do is it will rob it basically acts like a vampire sucking the soul and the essence out of the wine.
Yeah.
So the wine will not be oxidized, but it won't be very interesting either.
And while they keep the Coravin wines around for as much as 8 to 10 weeks, you don't much
it gets
want
dodgy.
after the fourth.
It gets dodgy.
After the fourth week, let them go.
Because the thing is what happens is every time you stab that cork with that... Should we explain what the Coravin is?
Yes, go ahead.
So the Coravin is a really interesting device.
Totally worth owning, by the way.
Yes.
If you don't want to drink the whole... My wife hates reds. And one of the reasons, before and then I'll let you get back to it. Sorry for this
go right ahead.
aside. So before COVID hit, I weighed 195. And then in the height of COVID, when I was living in Ireland, I got up to 240. Now I'm back down to 220 and on my way back to 190, 195. But the thing about that was that I was going to places that had those. So there was a point to this, and I just lost the...
You went to Ireland and we were talking about Coravins.
Coravins. And the thing... Yeah, right. So the great thing about Coravins, I will edit this in one way or another. The great thing about Coravins is, so I gained all that weight drinking all that wine, but part of the reason that I gained that weight drinking the wine is my wife hates red wine. So I would open a bottle, that's 500 calories.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it tomorrow because it's not as good tomorrow
Right.
as it is today, no matter what I do.
Right.
Unless I have a Coravin.
Yep.
Then it's just as good. So if your issue is you're the only red drinker in the family, but you open the wine, you open a $100
Yep.
bottle of wine, you don't want it to be so-so tomorrow.
Yep.
You want that $100 experience from beginning to end. Well, to get that, you got to drink it that night. You're not going to have... Well, some wines, if they're really big, might be better tomorrow, but they're not going to be better.
And that's a very cost-effective way to use the Coravin. Coravin has two main users. One is wine reps who would like to sample expensive bottles, but
don't want to open one at every single shop.
Right, exactly. Or it's like the thing is that if you're a salesperson working, and you do like in your 5 days of working, you cover vastly different regions. Some are wine shops that don't sell as many high-end bottles. Some are restaurants that don't sell as many high-end bottles. And then in one day or spread over several days, you might hit several higher-end places. Corvins, what they do is they stab a needle through the cork, and they pull wine out while injecting I think it's like nitrogen CO2, all inert gases back into the headspace of the bottle.
So the wine's not aging in the bottle.
Exactly.
As a result of this.
The problem is that this is a lot people don't realize. Every time you stab a needle through that cork, you're putting a tiny hole in it.
Yep.
Not much, but that little capillary tube is feeding oxygen in.
So it says that it's good for what, 10 to...
I don't know what their claim is, but
my feeling is 4.
Yeah, and I mean honestly, by and large, if you're not leaving the cork, because a Corvin has a clamp and it can sit on the bottle, and if you're not pulling the needle in and out and in and out and in and out, if you're running a high-end wine bar and that Corvin is just sitting on top of it, that's much more stable than if you're a wine rep going from place to place re-stabbing, unless you're going through the same tube. But even then, you're still pulling that needle out and you're leaving that little hole.
Will and I keep talking about opening a wine bar, but the problem is that in Virginia, 55% of your sales have to be food.
Is it that much?
It's at least.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I know. I would believe it.
I don't want to. I mean, for me as a publisher, I publish books. I have 10,000 books in print. There's a place in the Battery area of Asheville, and it is a wine bar.
Yes, Battery Park Book Exchange,
and that's what I want to do.
Yep.
But I don't want to sell food.
Place.
I want to sell books because I can get them at cost, and I want to sell wine because I love it. Now, the thing I would say is if I'm doing a high-end
a Y-end high-end bar?
The thing I want to say is if I'm doing a high-end wine bar, I'm not going to bother with a Corvin. I'm going to get nitrogen cabinets.
Yes.
Because then I don't
yeah. No, you just put the tube into the bottle
and that's once.
Yep,
so
and you
then
pull
I don't reintroduce
thing.
oxygen time after time.
You know where we had one of those was do you remember
they're not that expensive.
No, they're not.
A couple $1,000.
Do you remember the tasting room in Floyd? They used to be in the station.
Nope.
That might have been actually before you moved back here.
No, it was never open when I was
So
here.
the tasting room was this really interesting thing that they
I've
had
been
in
drinking
Floyd.
wine the entire time I've lived in Floyd.
Well, then again, it wouldn't have also been your scene because it was all local wineries and meaderies and cideries.
No, that sure wouldn't have been.
But it was
no use for Virginia wines. I'm sorry to all the Virginia winemakers. I think you guys are awesome. I'm happy that you're making wines. I freaking hate your wines. It's not your fault.
A vague disclaimer is nobody's friend.
You're in Virginia. You can't make wines I like. You just can't. It's not your fault. It's not you. It's your grape.
Except Petit Verdot. Every so often.
Every so often. But Cab Franc more than Petit Verdot.
Really? Which is surprising because it's lighter.
Well, 2005, everybody who made a Cab Franc made a great Cab Franc. Of course, everybody who made a wine made a great wine that year. There was I don't know, the wine gods were like, let's shine on the earth this year.
Mercury never went into retrograde once.
We've never had a year as good as 2005 since.
Worldwide,
yes.
The tasting room was a really interesting, innovative concept. It was designed to be a collective tasting room for, at that point, it was Chateau Morissette, Villa Appalachia.
I hate both of those names.
Adamo.
And it's not their, it's their fault.
Adamo.
I don't know that one.
The Meadery, Black Snake Meadery, and Foggy Ridge.
Black Snake Meadery is pretty good. Mead you can do here.
And Foggy Ridge cider.
Foggy Ridge is also defunct. A nice cider.
I wish they weren't defunct.
Yeah. They were decent. We liked them.
No, they were very good. But it was really cool because they were like Foggy Ridge and Black Snake were out in Carroll County, which is west of here, and then Omrine was out towards Roanoke, and Reiner was up towards Blacksburg, and Chateau and Villa were on the Parkway. Well, I think Villa might technically be in Patrick County, and Chateau.
So they're about 3,500 feet up.
Well, their vineyards weren't there. Their vineyards were further down the Blue Ridge.
I'm like, I don't want to grow wine.
No, and even the vineyards they have at 1,600 feet are problematic.
Grapes at that height.
Yeah.
No.
But it was really cool because if you were a tourist who rolled in the Floyd and you're like, hey, like, I wanna go to a winery. But it's like you're committing to a 30-45 minute drive in any direction.
And lots of expense, and this gets you all of them.
Yes. So you would come in and do a tasting of all of them and kind of get an idea. And some people would like literally plan their trip, like, okay, we want to go to that one, and we'll go to these two tomorrow, and then that one when we're leaving town. And it was a way for them. And it was so cool because you could do it for, I think it was like $10 a tasting, and you tasted like two from each of the 5 places. And it was a really neat place to work. The only problem is, you know where the glasses shop is in the station?
Yes.
That was where we were. It's horrible. It's a
tiny.
fishbowl. Well, not only is it tiny,
it's
dark. You would drink with your back to a picture window, which makes nobody happy. The space itself was kind of nice. It was kind of like, it was stark white flooring, and it was kind of vaguely Manhattan-y. But the problem is that what it really needed to be was where Monkey Business, the clothing store across the way, is. It needed to have that little street balcony, so you could go outside and sit with a bottle if you want.
To drink your wine standing at a table for the whole
in a windowless room with your back to a picture window facing a hallway. That's not fun. And I got it. Like, I understood why business wasn't as good as it could have been. We needed a different space. It was a really cool concept, and I really wish that more places would do collective tasting rooms because it's so good for local tourism.
Now, tasting is a little easier to do in Virginia because you don't have to sell food, but you're limited to 3 ounces, I think.
I think that's about right.
Per customer.
Yeah.
So they can do 3 ounces, whether it be wine or you put 3 ounces of alcohol.
Right. Okay.
So there's a moonshine distributor and
down in Franklin, right?
No, I don't know where he's based, but he has his tasting room here in Floyd.
Okay.
And you can get 3 ounces, and they make them mixed drinks.
Yeah.
So you got other stuff in it, and you got 1 ounce of moonshine.
Yeah.
Moonshine's all right, I suppose. I especially
like bourbon
it when
comes from moonshine,
apple
so
pie.
Yeah.
And you have the apple flavor, but I mean, like, I used to. Hey, if you work for the FBI, the ATF, any of those places, I'm asking you now to turn this off. So I used to buy this from someone illegally because it's not legal. They didn't have their still registered. Whereas the place I'm talking about in town, all their stuff's legal.
Yes,
totally
they have their licenses.
It's here in Floyd.
If you
want to try some southwestern
corn liquor,
come on down.
And rye too.
Got you. But at any rate, so
at their tasting room, they can do three. They can either do 3 1-ounce pours, or they can make you 3 mixed drinks with 1 ounce of liquor per drink.
So, but they'll have other stuff in it, so there's like you can have your boysenberry this, and your quisenberry that.
Actually,
and some of them taste quite good.
The cocktails that you can make with moonshine are actually surprisingly. I always thought about it in terms of like what can you do to mask the corn flavor, and actually, you know who was the best at it was Gabrielle. That man remains a master.
He's the bartender who used to work at the
local distillery.
Did he work there? I did not know that. I know that he used to work at Oddfellows,
which is
everywhere. No longer in business.
It is not,
and is currently on Friday and Saturday nights the bartender at Parkway. Mm-hmm. Go there. Tell him we said hey.
Yes.
Tip him well.
Gabrielle is, and this is no slight.
If he's not the bartender, it's probably Michaela.
Who was also good.
Well too.
Who was also good.
I really like her. Tip her really well.
She was experimenting one night, and she's got serious chops.
Cool.
She's good at what she does.
She's awesome.
But the thing is this is no slight against any other bartender in Floyd. Gabrielle is the best bartender in Floyd.
Okay.
There are other good bartenders in Floyd, and I'm not saying that the rest of them suck, but Gabrielle, in terms of his knowledge of the craft and his ability to weave new things together.
He should probably be working at Lush, but since he's the best in Floyd, he will last 3 minutes at Lush. And take of that as you will.
As you will, yep. No, I went by Parkway not too long ago, and all I gave Gabrielle were just ingredients. I let him handle the proportions and what he wanted to do. It was an idea, and he just ran with it and made a drink out of it. I can't even remember what it was, but I said I'm kind of in the mood. I remember what it was. It was like I want a gin drink, but I want it to be.
I hate gin.
Well,
it's the first thing I got drunk on. So,
I love gin.
Know, I had too much gin at too young an age.
We
12-year-olds shouldn't drink gin.
Probably not.
Don't do it.
We made a gin.
If you're 12 and you're watching this,
don't drink gin.
Don't drink wine. Don't drink gin. It all tastes like crap until you're older.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is
your taste buds haven't matured yet.
Not only have they not matured yet, if you drink too much of something, there's a very good chance you could develop an aversion reaction to it.
Yep.
And it's a real shame to go through life not liking something.
Gin, I have a reversion.
Yeah.
An aversion, not reversion, an aversion.
You reverted to an aversion?
Yeah. So at any rate, getting back to that, if we were to do something, we could do a tasting room
Yes.
with books, but we can only let you have 3 ounces.
Yeah, that's not as much fun.
And not only that, one glass is generally 4 to 6 ounces, depending
Right.
on where you go. So we can have you can have half a glass of wine, really.
And to me, running a tasting room is not as much fun because that's just getting like. When you give someone a tasting, what you want to do is
give them a glass.
Exactly, you're whetting their
that?
appetite. You're whetting their appetite for the next course, and when you don't have that next course.
My wife went and did a wine tasting last week. Okay, I hate to admit this. My wife went and did a wine tasting last week when we were at the beach at Dublin. They call themselves, I don't know what they call themselves. They suck. They just.
Well, they're making muscadine wines. It's
Yeah,
a very
they are.
different. It's a very different thing.
And she was like on me afterwards because she's like, I used to love their wines. Now I just like them. It's your fault. I'm like, because I've exposed you to better sweet wines. She's like, yes. Sorry, guys, but the thing is that they do wine tastings, and at the end of the wine tasting, you get a glass of whichever one of the ones you preferred the most. You can't do that in Virginia unless you sell food.
Right.
They don't sell food. It's just Virginia's freaking crazy. We were founded by puritanical nuts.
No, we weren't.
No, that's right. That's from Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's your state.
But still, we have these puritanical laws that make no sense.
Okay, I want to take this back to the founding of Jamestown, because the thing about Jamestown is that some people may be familiar with the John Smith adage, "He that does not work, neither shall he eat."
Yep.
The thing is, they weren't just farming food; they were making alcohol. They were making beer. They were making wine out of the local grapes, and they were definitely making a lot of cider because apples were easy to come by.
Which is where the sweet wine comes from. Because
Yes.
the only freaking grapes that were growing in America when they got here were muscadine.
But the thing that early on that made them really, really happy about muscadines is that the grapes were huge. You could get a lot of fruit and juice.
They're thick skins.
Thick
so they
skins.
live with the late harvest.
Yeah, John Smith was so excited.
These guys talk about that because they're further up in the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Their wines have to have thicker skins
in order to
through
survive.
the winter in order to survive.
Yep.
Now I don't know how you find. Apparently, you can choose
varietals or clones
of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
That have thicker skins.
Oh, absolutely.
So
you can do pretty much anything
they're
you
not
want.
wrong that the thicker skins will give you more flavor when they
Yes.
make it. That's absolutely legit. And that's the thing they talk about a lot.
When you get a late fall rain and the grapes start to swell before harvest, with thinner skins, you run the risk of them bursting.
Right.
With thicker skins,
They don't burst.
They don't burst, exactly. And in America, unlike Europe, especially in a subtropical climate,
We
like
have
Virginia,
a range that they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
This morning when I woke up, it was 62 degrees,
and it was raining.
It was raining on and off.
Yeah.
But when we started working on doing vlogs today, it was 98 degrees, and that was in one day. We saw a swing from 62, which got down to 62 probably somewhere around 3 or 4 in the morning, and stayed there till 7. And when the sun came up, it's just been going all day. So it's only now just getting to be sunset here in Virginia, and just starting to cool off. I mean, that's why we're here in my 500 square foot screened-in porch instead of down in the
facing
wine
away from the
gazebo
sun,
where we'd rather be, because it turns out that the hours that we've been shooting these don't work in the gazebo because the sun just is so bright, shining straight into gazebo until it drops behind the hill that is part of my property here.
Now, the other thing we need to note,
see.
we need to note that you and I are both of Irish extraction.
Yep.
The Irish people,
don't make wine.
Well, they do not make wine, but they are traditionally moon worshippers. The sun has never forgotten this, and that's why we burn every summer.
Right, yeah, I get lots of sunburns if I don't
Oh yeah,
put on sunscreen.
no. I'm lucky that I have my dad's. I don't know. Somewhere back in my dad's heritage is either like somebody Portuguese or somebody Mongol, because my dad has a very swarthy complexion. He does not. He only bronzes. He doesn't burn.
Right.
And he's stocky. So my mom was like, either Portuguese or Mongol. I'm not really sure which it is. And I was like, well, Genghis Khan was prolific. kind of could be either.
Very much so.
Yeah, but if I didn't have my dad's that half of his heritage, my mom would burn and turn white again. When I burn, it turns to tan.
I'm Irish and English on one side and
Right.
completely English on the other. That's all I got.
Right.
I have terrible melanin for that.
Yes.
But so the point is that we prefer to do down here to our right, which I'm
Yes.
not turning the camera. We prefer to do these in the gazebo. That's where we drink most of our wines.
Yes.
We drink most of our wines after sunset. We're
Yes.
doing these a little earlier.
We drink most of
because
our wines after
lighting.
dark.
Mostly because of lighting. What's that?
We drink most of our wines after dark.
Yeah, I mean, I really very rarely drink wine before 8 or 9 o'clock.
Well, and the thing is also is that, in Floyd, there's a temperate period of fall where, the sun sets and it's still relatively warm. Like Warren and I have just been wearing light jackets and been sitting down there in the gazebo, but the sun goes down at, like 8 o'clock,
Yep.
so.
And so when the sun drops earlier, you'll see us down there a lot more.
Mhm.
Because if we're going to do it during the sun, we're going to do it at noon. And at noon, it's as hot as it freaking gets.
Mhm.
Like right now, it's starting to cool off, and I'm finally starting
Just
to be
beginning
comfortable. I've now got my silver and purple shirt. Right now we're doing 2 of these a day until we get enough of them in the can. So
Yeah.
I used my white and silver shirt in the last one. I hope you saw that one. But I mean that's reality. But that's all part. I don't know that dog.
Is that a coyote?
No, it's a dog.
It's a dog? Okay. Welcome to Floyd, by the way, where it could be a dog, it could be a coyote. There's no wolves around here. We hunted those to extinction.
I
But
bought enough property to not listen to dogs, but
Right.
somebody somewhere has got a dog, and I
Right.
can't figure out where it's coming from.
there were the neighbor down the way from me, and I
Because I want to buy their house if they've got a dog.
Do you remember the Pudd'nhead? Did you ever read Pudd'nhead Wilson by Mark Twain?
Of course.
Where he says, I wish I owned half that dog. They say, what do you want to own half a dog for? He said, why, if I owned by half, I should kill it. And that's how he gets the name Pudd'nhead, because they don't understand the joke, and they think that he's stupid, because he
Right.
can't own half a dog.
Mark Twain's brilliant. By
Mark
the way.
Twain is brilliant. Pudd'nhead Wilson
Use
is
the correct word, not its second cousin.
What's that?
He has a thing about writing. Use the right word, not the second cousin.
Correct.
If there's a gun on the wall in the first scene,
Now that's Chekhov.
it must go off by the third scene.
That's
Well,
Chekhov.
he may have stolen it from Chekhov or vice versa, but it's definitely out there
Yeah.
under his name.
The-
And that's the thing about the internet is people have quotes, and if it's an illusion, not an alliteration, an illusion, people get it wrong all the time. Like
Abraham Lincoln said that. If you read something on the internet, it might not be attributed correctly.
Right. Believe Abe. He nailed it.
He absolutely did.
I mean, my favorite writer, Roger Zelazny, has a bit where he says, the center cannot hold. Everybody attributes to him, sometimes to Shakespeare. And neither one of them is correct.
Yates, isn't it?
It's Yates.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The guy who said, tiger, tiger, burning bright. That guy.
No, that's not Yates. That's Blake.
Oh, my God.
That's staying in.
I don't make those mistakes often, so enjoy that.
All right, I'm trying.
If I leave it
now
in.
we
I
have
probably
no.
will.
We have to find the center cannot hold Yates poem. It's all right. I know it's turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center.
That's the one.
Yeah.
The center cannot hold.
Now, what is the poem? Because I can never remember the name of the poem.
You got me, bro.
Well, it's one of those things. It's like everybody knows the Shakespeare
If I
quote.
had a phone,
But it's like the Shakespeare quotes. Everybody knows the quote. Almost nobody knows the play.
alcohol giveth the man the will, but taketh away the ability.
That
And
is
you know
Macbeth.
what?
The
It is
porter.
Macbeth. You were right. And more than once, I've been happy for that.
Mary, she giveth the desire, but taketh away the performance. Not with us, though. We tend to perform pretty well.
Lay on, Macduff.
Oh God! Well, at this point in the
we're almost done.
in the stage, who knows what we can even leave in anymore.
You know what? Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another Warren and Will's Wild Wine Reviews. We hope that it's been an experience of just hanging out with a buddy.
It's been an experience, one way or the other. We
But-
can't tell you what kind of experience to have any more than we can tell you how to enjoy the bottle of wine that's in front of you. But it
we're
has
hoping-
been an experience, one
We're
way or the
hoping
other.
you think of us as wine buddies.
Yes.
People to have wine with, and once we start, we will, and we may already have, but when we're doing this, I haven't set it up yet, we will have a Patreon. And one of the things that we may do, I haven't actually discussed this with Will, so this is a new idea I'm running by him, and if he says no, you won't ever see this, is like once a month we will do a wine tasting where we tell you what the wines are in advance. And if you're in our top level,
I love that idea.
If you're in our top level of either
Patreon
or OnlyFans,
yeah.
As I promise, I may take my shirt off, but that's as far as I'm going. I'm not banging any wines for you folks. I'm sorry. Then you will get to go out and buy that wine, and we'll do a Zoom, and just talk with you guys about the wines. You know,
can we do the thing where we see people popping
That's
up?
Part of it.
I see people do that on live stream on Facebook all the time.
We will do a live stream and bring you folks.
That would be awesome.
If you want to do it, we'll come up with some wines. Maybe wines we've already tasted. Maybe wines we haven't. You guys can let us know what you want to taste. And we'll do that. So we're looking forward to doing that with you, to interacting with you, and really being your wine.
I would like that.
Not just the friends that you watch now and then where the two of us go, but we want you to be our wine friends. We want you to hang out with us on the internet and drink freaking wine. It'll be awesome.
I would like that a lot, because the thing is
we're extroverts. Of course we like it a lot.
We're extroverts, but also like the thing is that people are going to have questions about like, oh, what do you think about this one? What do you think about that one?
We can answer those questions.
We can answer those questions. And
I mean, if you're sending us those questions, we're going to answer them.
Yeah.
We're also going to have probably in our second tier rather than our third. If you've got questions, like one of the things that you'll probably already see is that 3 days after we drop the video, we drop the transcript of the video with all the easy links to buying it. And at the end of it, we'll answer your questions. You got questions, and we can then answer them.
That would be a lot of fun.
And we're also going to set it up so that you can ask your questions in advance, and we'll put some of them on video for you. And we'll even name you when we do it. And you'll get that from being in our second or third tier of Patreon, which we haven't done yet, but I'm hoping long before you see this, we will have put that in place.
Wine should be fun, and I feel like it's not necessarily that people set out intentionally.
It should be fun. It's amazing.
People don't set out intentionally to rob it of its funness, but sometimes it happens, and we want to try to invigorate.
So that's a thing that pretentious people do.
Correct.
You know, the thing about pretension is that pretension implies they're trying to evoke a level of competence they don't actually have.
Or a level of knowledge they don't actually have.
You know, when I talk about, like, as a publisher, people talk about pretentious literature.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite author is extremely literate and literary. Now, literary and pretentious, many people look at them almost
they
as
falsely
synonyms,
equate them.
but they're not.
No.
Because you can be literary and just be literate.
Yeah.
You don't have to be pretentious. The pretentious is pretending that or assuming that you are above your audience.
Right.
But we want you, if you don't have any wine experience, to be able to watch these and go like, that helped. And if you've got questions, we're going to have, there's a link to us. You can email us. Ask. We want to answer them. I may answer you personally. I may put it into a vlog or blog. We may answer it on one of the videos. But we will almost certainly, we will answer.
We will
one
definitely,
way or
certainly.
So if you have any wine questions, the answer might blow. It might be me going, dude, I have no freaking clue. I don't drink that grape. But
we'll check it. I will check it out one way or the other.
And
if we can find it in Virginia, I will go and get it. Yeah. So I have a tiny little bit of wine in my glass, so I am technically not violating the commandment that you can't toast with an empty glass. So I am going to give you guys a cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for being with us. Thanks for enjoying us. Thanks for putting up with us.
Thank you for being
here.
In
whatever capacity you like this. Thank you.